Metagene is a 2 to 4 player card game where players manipulate their DNA strand to claim their niche in the biosphere.
Okay, hi, I'm Art Turlip. I'm the creator of Metagene, which is a DNA evolutionary biology card game. And today we're going to go over how to play Metagene. So, first thing you're going to do for setup is you're going to pick which deck you want to play with. For purposes of this example, I have selected the fungus deck. And what you're going to do is you're going to look at your cards here and sort them out based on the backs. So this is my niche deck that's associated with fungus, and this is my species deck. So you'll notice on the front side of the cards, they're all going to have a little icon on them that are associated with the deck that they're in. Just go through your fungus deck and make sure that you have all your cards in there as they're supposed to be. And depending on the number of players is how many niche cards you're going to be using for the game. So for a 2-player game, we're going to be playing plants versus fungi. We're going to have 18 cards per person. So I'm going to just count out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And ideally these would all be kind of shuffled up and randomized before we go. So that's going to be my contribution to the global niche deck. We're also going to put in 4 catastrophes. I happen to have 2 here. I'll throw in another 2 from the plants. They should have, and so they do, 2 hanging out there. And plants are going to do the same thing off camera. Alright, so, or in our spare time. So the next thing we're going to do is look through our species deck. And we're going to pick out this special little card that has a unique border on it. It's a little bit lighter than the others. This is our last common ancestor. So this is where all the DNA tray magic is going to start from. The rest of the cards you can just shuffle up and put them next to your DNA tray as so. Alright, now you're going to set up your sequence, your starter sequence, as it reads on your last common ancestor. So this one's going to be AAA. And you go ahead and shuffle up the niche deck. I'm going to simulate shuffling a little bit here. I don't really do a lot more. And so finally for setup, you're also going to have three more of these nuke bases. You're only going to need 6 throughout the entire game, so shouldn't need more than that. And you're also going to start with 4 of these mutation cubes. And these are going to be essentially your currency for being able to manipulate this line of nuke bases here, this DNA sequence. Alright, finally we got the niche deck here, so we're just going to go ahead and put 5 of these out in a circle. Now you notice that I drew a catastrophe card right away, so I'll explain when we go through the play what that card's going to do, but when you have it happen during setup, just set it aside and draw a new card to replace it. Looks like plants are going to have a really good start here because I didn't shuffle very well. Alright, there. Give these guys a little bit of simulated shuffling. Alright, and that's pretty much how you set up Metagene. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and start the turn for the fungus player. It's kind of mid-game setup. So what we're going to do is follow along through the Metagene turn phases card. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to collect mutation cubes. So we get 3 plus 1 for each untapped species that we have in play. So right now I have 2 tapped and 1 untapped active species. So I'm going to get 3 plus 1 for my coral fungus that's untapped. So I get 4. And move down to step 2, which is untap and activate. So these are all my active species up here. I'm going to go ahead and untap those, and I'm going to activate this Earth Star, which I played during my previous off-turn cycle. And that guy's just going to come up here, untapped, ready to rock and roll. Alright, now we move down to step 3. So this is the most complicated part of the game, unfortunately, but it's not too bad. What we're going to do is we're going to try to claim as many of these niche cards as possible throughout the course of the game. The reason is that these niche cards hold points, and whoever has the most points at the end of the game wins. The points are counted by the number of gems or resources on each card, and you get these by utilizing the species of opponents and yourself in order to basically match the resources that are on the card. So let's go through an example real quick. So I have this card here. I'm going to go ahead and try to claim, I'm going to claim this card with Earth Star. So I'm going to claim this niche, and I'm going to contribute the bottom value when I claim a niche with this card. Now when you claim a niche, you only put one card onto it, and that's what you're trying to, this is the niche that you're trying to fill for the moment. So I'm still missing on this card a green and 3 yellows. Now as you noted from the first phase, any cards of mine that I tap are going to negatively impact my collection the next go around. So I'm going to try to avoid that and use my opponents in a process called symbiosis, or basically using their resources as much as possible to fill up the rest of the niche. So when you go to fill a niche, you look at the top value. And the way I remember this is the bottom value is what you're going to use to claim a niche, because that's what belongs to you, and you're only going to use it the one time. The top values are kind of this communal resource, so they're always kind of facing outward towards the rest of the board. So I'm going to look around at the top values of all the cards that are around here and try to find, in particular from my opponent first, the resources that are going to fill up this card. So as it happens, we have 3 yellows here, which will fill up that, and a green, which will do nicely. And there we are. Now I'm able to claim this niche. And I had blue, green, and 3 yellows. Alright, let's see if there's anything else that we can try to get this turn. So there's another card out here, which is generated from my pile, meaning that it has the same resources that I tend to generate. My deck generates purple, blue, and green, whereas plants generate yellow, green, and blue. So in order to capture any of these other niches here, I would have to have a yellow, 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 or yellow in order to be able to claim and fill that niche. Unfortunately, plants are all tapped out, and I don't generate any yellow, so the only card I could try to claim from here is this guy. Let's see if we can do it. So I'm going to go ahead and claim using the bottom values of my last common ancestor card. And now I still need to get 1 green resource. So I look at the top of my cards, because they're communal for symbiosis, and they're going to help me fill this niche. So I need to tap for the green resource at the top of Fusarium. I'm going to tap it, and happens to be just enough to claim this niche. So I still have 1 card that's untapped for next round. I've claimed a good amount of points for myself this round, and I'm ready to move on to the cleanup phase, because there's not really much else I can claim this round. So first thing for cleanup is I'm going to replace vacant niches. So I'm going to go ahead and draw cards and place them back into the circle here until I have 5 cards around. Ah, looks like we have a catastrophe. Alright, so what happens with the catastrophe is once you get 3 of these, the game ends immediately. Each time that you draw a catastrophe, you have to discard half of your active species that are up here. Not your reserve cards that you play during your off turn, but once they're active, they're part of the sum total here. So plants are going to have to get rid of 1 card. They have 3 cards up here, so it's rounded down. I'm going to have to get rid of 1 card. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of Fusarium because it's already tapped, and it's not going to hurt me as much as getting rid of Coral Fungi, because I can use that to get at least 1 more mutation cube next round. Okay, once the catastrophe card comes out, obviously no one can claim it as a niche. I don't know about you, but I don't like living in a catastrophe, so I'm going to go ahead and set this off to the side, and we're going to take these cards and we're just going to put them back down to the bottom of the deck and redeal these cards back out. And this gives us a chance to get some fresh blood in terms of our niches that are out there in play. See, now we got a lot of stuff for fungus. That's good. Good for me. Alright. And we're ready to rock and roll. Now, if I had drawn another catastrophe here while I'm resetting the board, that's just going to get shuffled back into the niche deck here. And the reason being is you don't want catastrophe upon catastrophe. It just gets a little too chaotic. So get a nice clean setup, ready to go. I pass the player token back to the other player, and I redraw my hand back up to 5 cards, and I'm ready to start my off turn. Opponent is doing whatever they want to do in the active play area. I'm going to be looking at my hand and trying to figure out how to play as many of these cards as possible into my reserve area. So my sequence right now reads A-A-A-A-T. I have a few different cards here, but some of them are a lot closer to where I'm at right now in terms of my genetics. So the one card I'm eyeballing is this Rockfort right here. Nice little blue cheese. The card doesn't smell as bad as the cheese, but all I need to do to get to this sequence of A-A-A-A-A is the last letter needs to be changed over from T to A. And if you look at your off-turn actions, all we need to do is go A to T. That's a flip action. So that's going to cost me 2 of my mutation cubes. And those are just going to go off discarded. And I'm going to flip my nuke base over, and now my sequence reads AAAA. Once I have the sequence reading exactly as it does on my card, I'm allowed to place this card into my reserve area tapped. But I'm not done. I want to get more of these guys out here. So I look at my hand again, and I've kind of been playing a little bit. A's and G's are really close together. C's and T's are really close together. What I mean by that is that they're just a rotation action away from one another. So all I have to do to make an A turn into a G is I simply pick it up and rotate it around just a little bit. So all I need for this is I need to change the last 3 A's of my sequence into G's. So I'm going to spend 3. It's going to be 1 rotation, 2 rotation, 3 rotation. So now I have A, G, 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 and there we are. Ready for some probiotic yeast. Okay. Well, I drew this hedgehog mushroom at the end of my turn last turn, and I really want to get some hedgehogs out there. So let's figure out how to make that happen. Right now, my sequence is nowhere near TCCA, but I have the ability, with my off-turn actions, to reset my DNA to any of my species in play. This coral fungus is a nice little cousin, so I'm going to actually change my sequence to coral fungus, which is CCA, for just 1 little mutation cube. And now I'm just going to replace what I have in my DNA tray with CCA. From here, all I need to do is insert a T at the beginning of my sequence, and now I have TCCA, and that'll bring that hedgehog mushroom into play. So I'm going to play, I'm going to pay 2 mutation cubes, and I'm going to insert at the beginning of my sequence, and I just pop a T right there in front of the CCA. It reads exactly as it does on the hedgehog mushroom, so look out. Here comes hedgehogs. And that's going to probably do it for me because I'm out of mutation cubes, and I've played 3 species, which is really great for my off turn. And now that my opponent's probably done by now, doing what they need to do, I'll be looking up to see if it's my turn again here shortly. Alright, here we are, and this is going to happen to be our last turn here. This is late game, and oh, looks like we just drew a catastrophe as I'm cleaning up here during my cleanup phase. And this is our 3rd catastrophe that we've drawn over the course of our very long game that's been cut. So now the game ends immediately. No more stuff happens. Everyone stops what they're doing, and we go and look at our niches that we've captured, or that we've filled up. So I'm going to go ahead and count all the little resources on each card. So I just count each gem, doesn't matter what color it is, and I happen to have 25 points here. And the other player has 27 points, so it looks like Fungus didn't take the game today. It's gonna be a plant victory for today. So thank you very much for learning how to play Metagene.